Welcome and good evening to the October 2018 Jonathan Association Board of Directors meeting. We just concluded open forum. We've now called to order at 6:45. First item on the agenda is to approve the agenda.
Mr. President, I have an addition under new business. I'd like to add C, office manual.
Any other additions? If not, I'll accept a motion to accept the agenda as amended. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion by Judy, second by Kay. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Next item is the Secretary's report, the approval of the 2018 September board meeting minutes, page 1 through 3.
There is an error.
Okay.
Under attendance, Judith Foster should be eliminated.
Yeah, I picked up on that too.
Is there anything else that needs to be tweaked?
No, I missed that. But
I did too.
Motion to approve as amended.
Do I have a second?
second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Closed. All right, next item is the Treasurer's Report. Acknowledgement of the 2018 financials. And anyone go through and see perhaps anything, any questions on, comments?
I did have a question about account 5580, and it really relates to a capital expenditure. So there was 3 items in excess of $10,000 that made up a project. And I was wondering, is that capitalized via the general, via a journal entry, or was that not capitalized? And if not?
I'm not following you, Stefan.
So on page 15 of the board packet,
Okay.
in account 5580, there's 3 invoices, YTS Companies, YTS Companies and Rainbow Tree Care. This is for a capital improvement project over, I believe, in Tuscany. And my question was, I didn't see that showed up on the balance sheet as being a capital project. So is it just missing the journal entry to make that a capital project?
No, it was
Or
paid out of operating, it looks like. That was moved.
So what's our normal standard for a capital project? Something with a useful life of more than a year, typically? Or an improvement to the property? Some sort of real property improvement?
Anything else? Now we'll move on to the management report.
Alright. Financials, as you can see on page 17, it starts, operating funds, listed for the 3 months, along with the reserve balance. Is there any questions on that? 2018 2018 calendar on page 19. We have the fall cleanup coming up at the end of the month on October 27th. Clint made a flyer that's going up along with the photo contest and the fall clean that's being put up in the mail stations. It's on our website also. Next board meeting, we're hoping to host at the Karen House. All the remodeling should be done by then. So hopefully we can host the meeting there and see the changes. Change of ownership report on page 23. There was 5 reports. If it ever stops raining, we're hoping to get out and do property visits here in the neighborhoods. We've done a few, but haven't gotten a lot done with the weather.
Hey Carrie, I have a question for you
Yes.
about that. Do you have a form that you use for the property visits?
Yep.
Is that online?
It's not online. I can show it to you. It's just basically a form for, we've had it in board packets in the past. But I
Okay.
can send it to you.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And then we have a book back at the office that shows, so we'll go back and then we redate things like when they need to be updated and stuff like that, but I can
Okay.
send it to you.
Okay.
Okay? My favorite. Send.
Carrie, will you send me a copy of that too?
Sure.
I've not seen one.
I can send it to everyone. How about?
Always safe.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Okay. Form.
Here, can I ask you an operating financial question?
Sure.
So right now at our budget, we're 21,900 over budget for the year. Factoring that we'll get 10 grand back due to that money we
Yep.
removed from capital,
Yep.
right? So how do we look going into the rest of the year? And what steps are we taking to make sure that we meet budget?
Good bulk of why you are over are your legal expenses, which some of that you will gain back as we collect on some of the bad debt. Some of that we won't, i.e. a lot of money spent on the legal fees for Mill Pond and the whole culvert issue. A lot of money spent on legal fees on the fish house stuff. That we won't see a recovery on that. But when I start looking through your financials, that a good chunk of that is there.
So then you anticipate that we won't go any further the other way? We should,
I hope not. The bulk of the spending should hopefully be done for the year. I mean, unless obviously if we have some unforeseen storms or trees come down or a fluke snowstorm that,
sure.
we're not expecting, but, you're 18 grand, almost 19,000 over in total admin, 22,000 in collection expense, 5,600 in legal expense. We got 3 grand in miscellaneous admin, which I can't remember. Do you look that up for me? I don't remember. And then 6,200 was the, in communications, that was something to do with the, what was that pamphlet?
It's okay, we don't need to get the granular level, I just want to make
Okay.
sure that it's on management's radar, that,
Absolutely.
Yep.
we knew that going in this year that we had kind of a tight budget, and
Yep.
as we've worked on budget preparation for next year, it's going to be even more critical that we manage on a month-to-month basis and meet our budget number, just due to our such a large reserve contribution. And this is new to us, we haven't had to deal with that in the last 3 years. We've ran surpluses, if you will, so. Being within 11,000 is good so far, but I just want to make sure it was on our radar to
Yes.
stay strong the rest of the
Yep.
year.
All right, continuing on this, let's see here. There was a lot of letters and statements that went out this last month also. 111. No
One
email
thing on
blast.
that, Carrie,
Go ahead.
could
What?
we add the website correspondence to the management report?
Sure, I haven't gotten any, but if I get any website inquiries, you want them included?
Yeah, kind
Sure.
of like similar to the letters report,
Yep,
and whether or not they were responded or when,
sure.
just so we kind of keep track of those too.
All right.
Thank you.
No problem. On to action items. Number 1 is the tree replacement in Clover, page 29. I included maps of all the areas of trees that need replacement. Those are on 30 through 34 or something. We have 3 different bids here. We've used all 3 companies before in the past. In Clover, we have used Hartman Landscaping. They did a great job. We had like 7 trees that died, and they came right back out, no questions, replaced them. YTS was a lot cheaper, but they also are just replacing all the trees with maples, where some of the other companies are doing the trees, species that are best for the area and best for the soil where they're going. So we recommended either Rainbow Tree or Hartman to go forward. They all do carry a 1-year warranty. So it's basically what the board decides which company we'd like to proceed with.
So Carrie, the one company has the stump removal, the
Yep.
other 2 do not.
Right.
So would they be willing to add?
It depends what company. I've asked all 3 companies. Some
Right.
recommend the stumps being removed and the trees being planted in the same spot.
Okay.
The next company does not recommend going in the same spot, because they said, you know, it didn't grow right there the first time, so we should move it over a little bit. So Hartman was one that did want to go in the same spot. So if the tree trunks were big enough, or the stumps, I mean, then we'd have to get those removed.
Right, so who's gonna remove them? We have
We
to
have
have someone
a tree
separate?
stump guy that's, yeah, a lot cheaper than these companies are. So, but there's not that many that need to be removed. Most of them are, the guys have just ground them out themselves,
Oh, okay,
because they're small enough trees.
all right. So we shouldn't really consider that an issue while we're choosing
Right.
somebody?
We have a list of trees outside of Clover that need to get done, and a list of stumps of trees that have come down. We just wait till we get like maybe 8 to 10 on a list before we have them come out. Otherwise,
I see.
it's, you know, it's a better deal the more we have, more business we have for them.
Okay, thank you.
I really like the maps. That was helpful to see.
Yeah.
Where exactly these trees were that needed to be replaced.
Do we know, Carrie, did they find any commonalities with species of trees that potentially are not doing good in the area that we want to make sure to address in the tree plan?
Not really. Like I said, Hartman does, I would say, the most thorough, at least from what I've witnessed with them. They already were out and they tagged all the trees. And as you can see by their bid, each location has a different species that they're recommending for the soil and area. Obviously, some still die. They just don't, you know, with this cold weather too, it's hard to say how they'll go through the winter, but I think it's just kind of a fluke thing sometimes,
Okay.
so.
So after we address these trees, how many more trees are on the list? Or does this take everything that's on the list?
This is just trees that need to be taken down or are already down and need to be replaced. The rest are like trees that have dead branches or stuff in the wooded areas, not in Clover.
So these were identified on the May assessment?
Yes.
And so this will take care of everything that
May
was
assessment
identified in
and
May?
this summer, we went back out and looked at any trees that
Okay.
died over the summer.
And then when you do your assessment in October, those will be addressed at some point next year?
Correct.
Okay.
If there's anything additional.
How much is it typically to remove a stump?
I'm sorry, what was that?
How much is it typically to remove a stump?
Again, it depends on the size.
I mean, they're all pretty similar in size.
Yeah, they're all pretty small. We had some big ones removed. I don't remember, do you? And this guy is the cheapest we found, but I would say, I think it's like $14 a, does that sound right?
We had a stump removed and it was $100.
$100, but I think it was like, I think he quoted me like $14, you know, an inch. So if it's 4 inches, it's 4 times 14, that type of thing. But don't quote me on that, I'm not exactly sure, but I did reach out to him and ask him, I just don't remember exactly what it was.
So if we go off of Judy's understanding, and that's one tree, that's a big one, perhaps on 22 of them, we should get some sort of volume discount.
Yeah,
$50 a tree, perhaps?
yeah, and they're pretty small, most of them, you know. Or yours was big, you said, Judy? Yeah,
Ours was a big one.
yeah,
So some of them, are you saying that some of them might not need to be even
Correct.
ground out? You could just
Yeah.
leave them there
yeah.
because they're so
Because some of them
small?
are, I mean, are really small. The trees just never made it or didn't ever grow and now they died, so
And then YTS was gonna remove every single stump
Mm-hmm.
for that price?
they would, yep.
But they're only gonna do maples. And is there a reason? They're only gonna plant maple trees?
Yeah, He didn't really say.
We haven't had trouble with maple trees in the past, to your
No, we've
knowledge?
always done linden trees usually.
Right.
So, I'm not sure why he recommended maple.
And I would make the argument that it's spread out in a diverse enough geographic area that it may make sense to plant all the same, because you got 2 on one block, you got 3 on another block, and, I mean, maybe it's overkill with 7 different species over the course of 10 different blocks. I don't know.
Well, I just think that you're right, and I think they all have the same 1-year warranty, so.
Didn't we just use YTS for our last tree project?
Yes.
They did the Tuscany, the pine trees.
And based on their quality of work, would you use them
Yes.
again or no?
Yep, I like their work, I do.
Well, if it pleases the board, based on that, I would make a motion to contract YTS for the replacement of the 22 trees through the Clover Ridge neighborhoods.
All right, motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, any further discussion? I just have a couple of things here. You know, this, obviously they give you the 22 trees at that total number. They have stump removal in there. I would use your best judgment to determine what stump should actually get ground up.
Yeah.
And I would imagine that on 22 trees at that total, if someone comes up and says, hey, I think we should put a different tree here, I think you guys have that within your realm of capability to do, but if people think that all maples is fine, then that's fine with me. I just think that, again, there's $1,650 in here for stump removal. We just talked about not having to do that for everyone, so perhaps there's savings there.
Sure.
I do have one quick point to question is, these are not all boulevard trees. There's the one for sure, there's the park, the Juliet Park. And I would probably motion that we would maybe remove that specific tree and make that part of a master plan for Juliet Park and the other work that's being done there.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure how that would fit into whatever plan has been approved for the park,
Or yet to be
or yet to be approved. So we may want to just address that
Thinking the
separately.
plan may ultimately be something where that doesn't fit.
Right.
We haven't voted on this.
Yeah, we're in further discussion. And it sounds like we might have an amended motion.
Yes.
And then I got a couple of things we need to discuss too, that, you know, this bid has a couple different options in it. And it talks about watering the trees once weekly. Does their service include the water bags?
They usually do. They did for the pine trees, except that they were too big. The pine trees were too big. But,
Well, we couldn't get them under the trees.
yeah. But, yes,
I don't
last
see
time.
that- I don't see that written here is what I'm concerned
Oh,
with,
for the YTS?
unless I missed it.
Water bags typically are not included.
Okay, so the answer is no. So that's an additional cost that we need to factor in. And what's the cost per bag?
I don't have cost per
I
bag.
don't either.
I
And then
can go
there's-
on Amazon though and buy them for about $20.
And then Vern just fills them up then?
Yeah.
Puts it on and fills it up?
Yeah.
Is that how it works?
Yeah, we have that big watering tank. That's what we do with the pine trees.
Okay. But the warranty's contingent upon that. And then
Right.
there's also,
Same.
looks like a substitute item listed. I'm assuming that would probably go with, I mean, 1 3/4 versus 2.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
But these are things that need to be figured out before you sign the contract. I guess we just need to know how much money budget.
Well, so I'm looking at water bags. You got, on Amazon, there's a 3-pack for $44. So we would need 8 of these. So this would 320, 350. You know, take half the stumps out, 800, 1100. So this deduct here is for going from a 2-inch to an 1 3/4. Or we're at a 2 right now. So we could go down to a 2 and, you could go down to the 1 3/4 and save $1,800. Is that what you want to do?
Can I ask another question? So, and then the ones that if they're, YTS is gonna move it into a different spot, right? So move it over 4 feet,
Yes.
for
Yep.
example. And they're gonna grind the stump.
Yep.
And then what about the cost to refurbish that stump that was ground? So is that dirt? Is that
That's probably just
sod?
something we would do in the spring.
So that won't be part of this project?
Right,
So it won't be done all at one shot?
right.
So you all know where I stand on this. If you're gonna do a project, you do it all. And you finish it right away. You don't leave half of it for 6 months. So it's an area of concern for me. One, we have to budget, two, it needs to get done. It sounds like about a $15,000 project.
And I think there's 20,000 in the reserve study for trees, is that right?
I think so.
Per year?
Well, I mean, I think we could certainly, to your point, include grading and seeding. I mean, I live in a townhome, I haven't seeded in a while, but when I had a house, it just sits there and it starts growing in the spring, so there's no reason we can't drop the seed.
So is there a preference on the size, or should we go with the 2-inch?
I think we should go with 2-inch.
I agree.
Okay.
So,
So can I amend that motion to include a dollar amount up to $15,000 for the entire project? That would include grading and seed and bags to complete the project.
Okay.
and to remove that one tree from Juliet Park.
To remove the tree from Juliet Park.
And I just have one comment.
No one has.
So, all these maples that they're listing, autumn blaze is a fairly fast-growing tree. Red maple are slow-growing trees. I'm looking up the Sienna Glen, I don't know, I can't find much about it, but, it says the autumn blaze and the Sienna Glen maples do sprout helicopter seeds. However, there are many hybrids, let's see, which don't. So maybe we want to be conscious of that. Do we want helicopter seeds everywhere? I don't think so. I don't.
I loved them when I was a kid.
Yeah. Did you collect them all? Because you'd almost have to, so, I mean, there are many seedless maples.
Right, we
All
have,
right, so go with seedless maples. And you choose the tree.
I think we have a motion
okay, now let me read the
amended.
motion. Let me read the
Read
motion.
it back.
Okay, Chase's motion, Amy's second, to have YTS to remove 22 trees. Stefan amended the program, the motion, up to $15,000 to include grounding, seeding, bags, and to remove the Julep Park tree.
And then we would
It needs to be
add,
seconded, though.
I second that.
Oh, you
Oh,
did?
Amy seconded, okay. Okay.
Any further discussion? We'll just go with the seedless maple. Make sure we do that.
Okay, we need to vote.
Yep. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. All right. Next item?
All right, let me get back to this here. All right, next action item is the Security Bank CD renewal. Page 43 is the statement that they sent to me and Steve. So you guys just wanted to talk about this more, to decide what to do with this CD.
So the one thing about this is, the board has to approve something like this. If you remember, several months ago, we signed up for a 6-month certificate of deposit, and I think it was within that 10 to, was it the 50,000 and above, the last CD we had? And this one is, it's probably on our balance sheet.
It's about 120 some thousand.
120-some thousand. So I would continue to recommend that we go with 6 months terms as the interest rate environments are continuing to rise throughout the rest of this year and early next year, so that would be my recommendation to the board.
Did I understand that it would just automatically renew at the 1-year rate?
It was, unless we tell them differently, yep.
If we tell them differently? So, just for ease of bookkeeping, I would say let it automatically renew at the 1 rate, but that's only,
All right.
that is my view.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Okay.
Maybe 1.58%, looks like.
Which is still pretty good. I mean, long term right now, I think 2 to 3 year, it's running at about 2%. So think it's a good rate. Do you want to put a motion out there, Steve?
I move that the CD that comes due, it was the 8th. We have a few days to take care of that. We let it auto-renew at the 1-year rate.
I second that.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried.
Carrie, will you call Robin and?
Yeah, yep, I'll take care of it.
If I need to do
Yeah.
something, thank you.
Yeah, I will. Shouldn't have to, I don't think, but I'll let you know.
The next item on the agenda is the bad debt on page 44. Carrie and I had a discussion about this. This is one of those items that were still outstanding. Carrie had went back and done some additional legwork on this. She recovered some of the funds. It is my belief that the remaining $93 is uncollectible, so I would make a motion that we write off $93 for account 1093-16670.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Steve did. Sorry.
Why do you feel it's unrecoverable?
The property had changed, there was a foreclosure, there was the property had changed hands twice. Carrie had worked with one of the previous owners and collected a portion of the debt, but it is my belief that this $93 that's remaining should have been written off as part of the foreclosure. It's not worth our time, energy, or effort to try to collect the $93. We're talking three owners since, so.
Understood.
But she did collect a couple $100
Yep.
from one of the in-between owners. So she should be commended for that.
Well done.
Thank you,
And
Carrie.
then-
Thank you.
Yeah. That is pretty much it besides the collections report.
Point of order, there's a motion, a second on the floor.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. Any other further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Sorry, I was rereading it. Old business. Have you heard anything on those trail system maps?
He sent us a draft of it. He didn't want us to go public with it yet, but he just wanted to kind of give us an idea of what it's gonna look like.
Okay.
I think it looks great. He's put a lot of work into it, it sounds like. He has to get a couple things approved at the city before he can give it over, but it's getting there. So
Okay.
hopefully by spring, we'll have something ready to roll.
So let's table it until
Okay,
probably March
okay?
2019.
Are you talking both the trail ID ones and the historical ones?
No, just the trail ones.
What do we
Right.
know about the historical?
We haven't heard any more. Justin and Nate were gonna kind of work on those, I think. Correct, Justin?
I thought that's what we were talking about with these trail system. Some of them were gonna be like at the same location.
Yep.
It was gonna be a larger print, if you will.
Right, of the trail maps. And then there's also the historical trail maps. That,
So two different items there on one line.
It is.
Okay,
Confusing.
all right. I have nothing to say on historical markers. I don't know where that one's at. So let's table them both till March 2019. Apple Award nominees.
When do we need those by? Is there a deadline?
well, we should have something out by the end of the year so that we can notify the,
The annual meeting we?
Yep.
Okay.
yep, that's when we announce it. So, but we usually would let the applicant know, or not the applicant, but the award winner by January.
And we don't have to give one out, correct?
We don't have to, no. I think every year there has been, but it doesn't have to.
Okay. Well, I just know this has been on here several months, and it doesn't seem like people have any nominees, so let's, by next month, if we can get nominees, great. If not, we will forego the Apple Award for this year. Vital House.
Yes, I've been working on that quite a bit, and I spoke with Liz, the city planner, and went through several things with her on the phone last week, and she understands that we prefer to demolish it, but she did offer up that, and I guess this has been offered before and I didn't know it, that they would possibly, since we can't advertise and we can't, basically, our hands are tied with Idle House, that the city thought that she thought maybe that they could come up with something to find an owner or someone who would be interested in purchasing it. If we did a quick claim deed or if we sold it to them for a small amount of money, whatever, and she said she's not as busy now as she had been, and so she was gonna look into it, and we were gonna sit down and have a meeting, and Chase can come too when it's set. She was gonna do some background stuff, and I don't really know how far this is going to go with them, but I did tell her that if this doesn't go anywhere, that we are still interested in pursuing the demolition, and we would be looking at cost for that and preserving the brick and a few other things. And she said that's not their preference, obviously, but that is what we're working on. So
Okay.
that's my update.
All right,
Thank you.
thanks. Mill Pond Culvert, has a letter been sent to them?
The letter was drafted. I actually just received it today.
Okay.
It's 7 pages long, so I can forward it to the board so that you guys have the next month to look at it, and then we
I would
can
just send it. If the attorney has it, just
Okay.
send it out.
send it.
Yep.
Okay, you guys don't want
I
to
mean,
look at it
send it
first?
for our records, but I don't want there to be this approval. We already approved it. The
Yeah.
attorney's gonna write it, send
Okay.
it. So yeah, send it to us for our records, but we don't need to approve it.
All right.
Budget, that'll be at the November 2018 meeting. I think at some point, the finance committee, it'd be nice to sit down, Stephen, with you. Carrie can be there, great. I know preference-wise, I would probably have to be during the day, so we'll have to try to work on that, but it'd be good to go over the budget before next month's meeting. 'Cause
Yeah, I mean, I would like to have that in by, frankly, end of October, but
Yeah, it'll have to be at the next board meeting when we approve it. So what'll happen is, the committee will make a recommendation to the board will look at management's recommendation, and then, well, I think hopefully we can come to some sort of, over the next several weeks, to have a good idea of, you know, I think we're pretty close on a lot of things. There's just some things on, as far as some numbers that we need to look at, and we can go over those, but it looks pretty close, so. Tuscany sign painting,
That was supposed to start yesterday, but again, with the weather, they're hoping to get out here the end of the week, but it'll depend, because it's stucco, so if it's wet, they won't be able to paint, so hopefully we'll get done soon,
we need some dry weather.
yeah. And that moves on to the Pavilion Trail, again, way too wet to do any excavating, so they haven't started that, keeps getting pushed back, so.
okay.
Weather permitting on those.
How long of a project is that Pavilion Trail? How long is that gonna take?
If it all flows, excavating, he said probably a good 2 days, maybe 2.5. The trail they can do in a day, so that wouldn't be a problem. And then the railing, they said probably about 2 days, give or take. So if it would all flow and be perfect and all their schedules are open, we could get it done within a week.
Okay.
Do they make the railing right there?
Well, I'm sorry, what?
Do they make the railing right there?
I
Or do you have
don't,
to order it?
I don't know, I've never done railings with these. Well, they come out and they custom make it and they install it, so
In 2
I'm
days,
assuming they
that's
have it
pretty
pre-made and then they just install it.
Mm.
So,
Okay. On to new business. The Fieldstone easement agreement, page 67. Or no,
63.
63, sorry.
267.
So this is basically the same easement agreement that they had. They did include consideration for the easement of a sum of $7,500, which is the number I got from David Helmuth. He said that would cover over and beyond what we need to cover.
Can you
he
be more
thought-
specific with that? What does that mean, over and beyond what we need?
Okay, so he said that we should charge $2,000 per plot that we're letting them use, and we're letting them use the middle plot, so that'd be 2,000. And he said the attorney's fees would be 55 or under. He said that's probably way generous. So with the two together, he said if you put in up to a sum of 7,500, we'd be covered.
And they drafted this easement, the other party, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just so it's
Yes.
clear.
Sorry, Fieldstone did.
And I noticed there still isn't any easement to, because their walkway has to transverse our property, connect to the cement path that's on our property. So they didn't address an easement there. So are they expecting to take that by adverse action? Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'd have to ask them.
Was that brought to their attention or not?
Well, we talked about, we met with David Helmuth that day in the office. They talked about that plot and that there was a sidewalk there, and the trees were brought up too. So they said they would put everything back the way, you know, if they wreck it or whatever, they'd have to fix it back to the way it was.
Yeah, but that's not the point I'm trying to make. The point I'm trying to make is that they are gonna do a walkway for each of these homes. And that walkway will be put on our property, a number of feet, to connect to a sidewalk that's on our property. This easement only addresses a 20-foot wide swath going across our property for, I think, purposes of drainage and such. So on this side of their property, they didn't ask for any easement there. And I'm just wondering why that hasn't really come to light yet.
I don't know. I guess I wasn't aware of that.
I think they brought it up in the previous times we've had the little map, right? Because it has shown their property boundaries.
Yep.
And then it's a little sidewalk jetting out for a number of feet that connects to our
We talked
sidewalk.
about that a couple months ago, I think.
Yeah, I thought you were just talking more about making sure that our sidewalk was back into the repair of, I guess I didn't realize that you wanted an easement for that.
Well, it's not that I want an easement, but I mean, I'm just surprised that they didn't address that. And that's why I was wondering if they're thinking about using our property by adverse action. You know what I mean? They build something on the property, they improve it, and then it becomes theirs, basically.
Doesn't show on this.
So,
Yeah, so they'd be building a sidewalk out to, like, on Jonathan land and meeting the sidewalk.
that's on our property. Right, so they're actually, gonna- theoretically, their guests would have use of our sidewalk. And then so, to get into the home, right? And especially the number 2 home is landlocked, right? So. I mean, by all means, I'm not trying to say, whoa, time out, we can't go forward with this, but
Right.
yes, that's a good drawing. May not be to scale, but yes.
I have this
Yeah.
too. Does that,
If you want to put it on
it
the
up?
overhead, but does that have the property lines?
Yeah, it should.
And does it have what they're looking to put there?
No, this is just off the.
Their sidewalk does go up to that point, though. You could show it. Like, just bring it up here so people can see it.
I'm just saying that, this is one issue, but there's another issue that is potentially there.
What does adverse action mean?
Well, like you take it by using it. Say now you,
Kind of like, yeah, I made it look better, and I didn't charge you anything, or I didn't.
I didn't grant you an easement, but I took it, and I
It's
used
kind
it
of,
for a number of
it
years.
seems,
Now it's
the
become-
one thing that I see from this, though, I know it's not a timeout moment, but if we're making them give us an easement for this drainage area, and, if I were them, I'd ask Jonathan, well, why didn't you make me give you, get an easement for that sidewalk? And putting that sidewalk out to yours.
And perhaps the answer is that they had it surveyed, and there's a certificate of survey, and that, the sidewalk is where our property begins. I don't know. That might be the answer. I doubt it.
I will say by looking at it, to me, in my mind, I don't know the history on this land or how we acquired it, but it does look like, just because it's an extra sidewalk, there's a sidewalk around the perimeter, and then there's that. The intent was, for whether it's homes or townhomes, the intent was for that to be the sidewalk to them. So, to your point, what we're looking at here might be incorrect, and they have other data, or we should ensure if we do move forward you know, that we include that as part of the easement. And then take consideration for that as well.
Yeah, because the whole part of an easement too is the whole warranty of owner piece.
And it's perpetual, it's non-revocable, it's not a license, so. And then the statute isn't in the, they're not gonna have to move it, right? Whosever statute it is, it's not in the way?
No.
Someone had boots on the ground,
Oh, the
it's not in the way?
Well, maybe they're, I mean, for all I know, they could be planning to build their own sidewalk on the other side of the trees,
Right.
right? I mean,
But the plans that we have seen, that's not the
they're
case.
coming straight up to the,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And of course, you know, we gotta remember, their guests will then walk along the path, which becomes our insurance risk. And
That's what I was just gonna say.
be nice if that was fished out, because it really is, it's not for their exclusive use, but the majority of the use will probably be their invitees.
Right, so to that point, I mean, that risk already exists for anybody who walks on the sidewalk.
Oh, yeah, this is more than I remember, but yeah, that's quite it's quite a ways that they would have to transverse, if you will, those three, because the houses are gonna be here, right?
Right.
And they'll have a sidewalk from here to here to here. And so. So I guess it would be my suggestion that, you know, why not grant them an easement to go up to our sidewalk and ask for 15,000 total? You know, 7,500 for that 20-foot stretch, and then another 7,500 for that up to our walkway.
I like that.
Can I just ask a random question? So where it says outlaw lot J on here, how much space is left there?
I think it's like a half acre.
Could we put our garden there? Oh,
Well, it's,
I'm just checking.
there's a statue there.
Well, that could be in the middle.
Could scare away the birds, right?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not familiar with it. I just thought, you know, if we're gonna put water in, and they're gonna have an easement, and we own it.
I mean, it could be an option.
Okay, good. Didn't know that.
You know what I mean?
Like
That's
every
what
lot's an
it is.
option. Every lot we own.
It's gonna be for their exclusive use.
Something we could do with the idle house,
No,
the radon. Oh,
I thought of that.
Let them know it too.
Yeah, and then as far as the trees that'll be there, is that gonna be, continue to be our responsibility? Or since we're granting them an easement now, are we expecting they maintain those trees that we've now granted easement for that spot? You know what I mean, that goes along the sidewalk?
well, if we're including stipulations, I think they should maintain them.
Who's they?
The homeowners association.
Their homeowners association? Oh, okay.
They're gonna be planting along the boulevard as well, but we'll be maintaining those.
The fee simple owner of that property that will receive the easement on ours.
Oh, well, we don't want that. They might not maintain them.
That's correct.
Are these single owners or is there a sub-association?
So,
There'll be a sub. That was my thought, is that the sub would be responsible for maintaining those 4 or 5 trees.
Actually, if like that plot of land they're taking there, we can't put a garden plot on that. So there's really not a lot of space there.
There's nothing left after that.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that whole thing is a half acre.
It's a nice, I like when it's mowed, it looks nice. So it sounds to me like this whole easement, it's just not complete.
So do we want a motion with some of our
Gosh,
thoughts
I
to
don't-
go back to them?
So is that
I don't know, I mean,
I think we're just brainstorming right now.
has someone picked up the phone and had the conversation with the requester?
I've talked to both of the owner and the engineer, and then we also met at Helmut's office for an hour and a half.
But that was, I mean, since we've last met on this,
Right.
in the
Well, I
last
talked to.
30 days.
Yes, I talked to Trent, the owner.
so the inability to have all the information, to have all these things hashed out, us having to do that, not having all the information, it's made it incredibly challenging for us to vote on this because there's too many questions. And I could sense frustration on both of your part. But in this case, what else can we do? Like, we have to think of these things that come up when it's our land being used. People are using it. They have trees that are in their front yard, but it's our property. Like, we can't just make easy decisions about it.
Sure.
So.
So what other concerns does the rest of the board have with this easement agreement? Potential concerns, in the spirit of trying to come to a resolution. That's just my one opinion about this additional space that
Right.
they didn't ask for easement. If the board doesn't have concerns with it, now's the time to speak up, otherwise I would hate to send the team back to have a conversation with the potential owner.
So this has nothing to do with the easement for the utilities? Is that correct?
It does, this in red is for the utilities.
We have to do a new easement. They would actually provide us a different easement. This would just be for private drainage and utility easement.
But on that side of it.
Yep.
Okay, so the option was to go down the alley? It wasn't, okay. So this was always going to be the option that we were offered?
Well, I think that they originally asked for 3 easements, but then they worked it out with the city to move the bookends, if you will, houses,
Okay,
to allow them to go out
okay.
this way. I mean, honestly, they may have the option to come out of the other side of the house and go down the connect. I don't know, I'm not an engineer, but to them, obviously, this seems like the path of least resistance for them.
What I think we should do is, I think we should, like, this easement is specific to the plot you see, and another easement will have to be drafted on their behalf for the sidewalk area coming onto our land there. I think this is well done. Like, this easement is very limited in its nature. Something else will need to be done.
I agree with you. I just think that it would be respectful of us to put them on notice that we have concerns with their other piece of property that, you know, they'll be coming on our property. Because as, I'm putting myself in their shoes. If you give me an easement for this, and then 3 months later say, well, what about this other part? Right, you wanna put a sidewalk? You know what I mean?
They didn't bring it up.
I know.
So if we brought it up, then I guess we should ask the question.
And like I said, they may have information that has been surveyed already, and that's not an
Right.
issue. We don't know that. By all means, I'm not trying to hold up the decision.
I don't think you are. I think if that's the case, if that's what the board wants to do, then I think that we should not, my recommendation would be to not vote on this evening, to throw it back for another month, and give them the ability to revise it, include the other areas.
Are we holding anything up with Fieldstone developing? that
Probably.
area? Did they say when they're gonna start?
They were hoping this week, but I'm sure with the weather, they're backed up, but that's what they were hoping. They had the go from the city to start.
Do we feel like a month would change our mind on approving the easement for utilities?
No.
It wouldn't change mine. I was
We
ready
couldn't.
to approve this.
We couldn't, once it's signed and recorded, we can't. It's not revocable. If it was a license, it'd be revocable.
I think Fieldstone has, you know, a good reputation as a builder, not only in the area, but in Jonathan.
Yeah.
You know, so I think they've come back with what we were looking for. And it sounds like we didn't do a good enough job. We knew about the potential to cross the trees and to use the sidewalk. It's something we've been talking about. So when we took this back to them, you know, for whatever reason, they didn't get all the information that we had. So to make them wait another month think would be ridiculous.
Hey, Carrie, you've never been provided with a certificate of survey? Never provided you any documentation?
Everything I've gotten, I've sent to you guys.
I have a question. So what if we approve this, what they gave us? And that's okay. And then we say that, well, we want an easement for the sidewalk. Can we throw that in later?
That would be a different agreement.
Yeah, so we could do
Yeah,
that
we could
later,
do
so
that.
we can vote on this
I
tonight.
think, if we were to have a conversation with Fieldstone and just politely remind them that, hey, your plans show a sidewalk coming out to meet our sidewalk that's crossing Jonathan land. What can we do to fix this? I think they're logical people.
Okay, so, yeah. Can vote on this then.
Can you do an addendum to an easement?
Well, this is for the drainage and utilities.
Yeah,
So this,
it's a separate.
So that's a whole separate, so the sidewalk is no bearing on
No
it,
different.
really.
So you think we need a motion to approve this?
that's how it would work.
Okay.
I remember what happened last time. I would make a motion to approve the easement as presented.
Motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
No.
I'm for
Oh, wait, yays again, please? So can you just,
Raise your hand. 1, 2, 3.
wait, no, yays, I said.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Nays.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 2 nays.
Yeah.
5 to 2, motion carries.
Yeah.
Do you have a fresh copy of this to sign?
I did not. I mean, we can use this one.
Okay. All right. Jonathan Gardens, kind of talked about it a little earlier.
Yep. And nothing's really, we did talk to that one homeowner named Jeff, and his neighbor Jim apparently thought Jeff was in charge of all this, so that was interesting. And beautiful site over there. They do have issues with, it's in a circle. Traffic may be an issue, parking may be an issue, I don't know. It's a beautiful site. I can see why the kids play there. I mean, I don't know why we own such a beautiful, long, big piece of property.
I asked the same question with a lot of the
Yeah.
land that's Jonathan.
Yeah, it's amazing. And you can't sell it, so you can't put a house on
Right.
it. And there's a nice park there, kind of off to the side. There's plenty of room for the gardens and to have play area still. I mean, it's like a soccer field almost. It's beautiful. I did call the city, like I said, and I spoke with Scott about purchasing part of Friendship Park or leasing it for 99 years, and he was gonna get back to me. I think the issue is, if we're gonna do gardens, we need to stay in Jonathan. I don't think we can be down in Audubon somewhere.
I agree.
So, Amy and I have looked and spent time, and I think we still have some time, because we've decided not to go back to the garden plots that we have. We went down and looked at them. It's just not real feasible.
I have a question for you. Have you, in your survey, did you consider any of the land around Karen House?
Well,
Around Karen House? No. I don't think that's
what
ever
land
been-
around Karen House?
Well, I mean, when you pull in, there's like a little there's a parking pad, and then there's some green space, and there's shed, and then there's green space. So I mean.
And it's
I'm
pretty
thinking, like,
shaded.
But I mean, if we had to remove a couple of trees, the water's there, there's parking. It is kind of a central community place, or at least that's what it's
True.
designed to be. It's centrally located within the community.
Do you know how big that lot is, Carrie?
I
Any
don't.
idea?
And you know where the garbage cans are too.
Yeah, yeah.
You could almost move those garbage cans and add some area there if you needed to, maybe. I don't know, something to look into.
So maybe
That's
it
a
would
good
just be
idea.
a smaller number of
Hmm?
maybe raised garden beds?
Well, we went down to the pavilion, and it's gorgeous down there right now. And so when you go down the path to the pavilion, and you've got the wildlife area and the plantings and stuff, and the pavilion's up here, there's a plot of land right here, right next to the walkway. You can use water there and everything, and we figured there's room for 6 raised beds. And it wouldn't look out of place because you already have the wildflowers and stuff growing next to it, or just across the path. And we thought if we could do 6 raised beds there, I think you figured there'd be enough for 6. As another option or in addition to.
And the water hookup's already down
Yeah,
at the
it's already down.
pavilion. You
Just
can just
drag a
run a
hose.
hose.
This is the Conan.
No, this is the pavilion at the park, at Lake
Talking about
Terrace.
like raised beds, so it
Yeah.
would be smaller,
Well, I
maybe
think
more of them.
So how would they get down there? We can't bring a car, we can't park.
on the new ramp.
That would be walking.
Yeah.
And someone can walk that far, bring the.
You could park in neighborhood 4. That's a short little trail, but.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's an option, and I think Carrie was smart. I mean, Amy was smart. It's a good option. There's only gonna be room for 6, possibly, but there's canoes down there, and there's, you know, I don't know about fencing for that area.
You know, it's kind of interesting. In my mind, I just thought of, like, perhaps there's several different sites with
Maybe.
a small amount of raised gardens.
Yeah.
Raised bed
Based on
gardens.
demand.
As long as we have water.
Yeah,
Well,
you won't
yeah,
have water.
absolutely, I'm just saying,
Yeah, you're right.
Like-
Sporadically spots here and there.
and then the whole idea about like keeping them looking nice, you know, he mentioned like from October to March, I mean, we would just remove everything.
Yeah.
We wouldn't let it sit there over the winter.
No, the people that use them are supposed to remove the stuff,
Yeah,
right,
or else they
Carrie?
lose their deposit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because
Apparently,
then
we're
we
not
would have to
charging
go do it,
enough.
right?
Yeah,
But regardless, well. so
regardless,
that's
they're not,
something.
it's not gonna be an eyesore.
Yeah, it
No,
can't be an
no.
eyesore. I'm happy to hear they're raised.
Yeah, well,
I think
those
some
were a
people,
thought.
you know, when
Yeah.
you, we certainly heard that tonight from the
Yeah,
homeowner,
yeah.
that there's a fear that it's just gonna be an eyesore.
And I think one way to keep it from being an eyesore would to have fencing that the association puts around the garden. Because otherwise you have people just bringing in their own fencing,
Right.
mismatch.
So we would have rules too, perhaps in place, like
Mm-hmm.
you can't,
Yeah.
no flamingos or no lawn flamingos.
Well, that's probably better than chicken wire. I don't know.
Right, right, I mean, the fencing, we're thinking maybe that aluminum wrought iron look, not necessarily.
I don't think so.
No?
Because animals can get through that. I don't know.
Well, it sounds like we're
could
making,
look at
making
it.
a lot of good progress.
I hope
I
so.
mean, you know, thank you to all of you who are working on it.
Yeah.
It's come a long way from where we were a year ago.
Yeah, and the committee will bring a recommendation to the board at some point, so we'll have more discussion about the garden plots.
Okay.
Anything else on garden spots?
Mm-mm.
All right.
See,
Next thing is the office manual, Mr. Stefan.
Oh, thank you. So we've passed a lot of policies over the course of a number of years. We have a bunch of different procedures, and I know Karen, our gardener, was working on a landscaping book. And I'm not sure if there's anything that compiles, like, are all these things in different locations, or is there one big, like, operations book that we have at the Karen House?
Well, we have a process procedures book that kind of talks about all the different procedures of different things. Karen's got a book. We've got the neighborhood assessment books. So they're in separate books, but they're all in books.
Binders.
Thank you.
Yeah. What about our policies that have been passed, like the tree policy, the collection policy? Are those all compiled in some sort of format, or are they scattered throughout also?
Well, I mean, we put everything on our website, and then besides the tree policy, like, what else are you thinking? What other policies?
Purchasing policy, collections policy.
All that. I mean, I
Policy
have,
for the managing the credit card.
Yeah, that's all in the process and procedures book, so you can
Oh,
flip through, it's got a tab and it flips through. Some of it might need to be updated, but I updated it about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago.
Awesome. Well, I would make a request, since there's some of those things in like my board book, but I know some things are found, and we receive our board books at different times.
Yeah.
Yep,
I'd make a request to the board that they make it a directive that over the next 30 days, or within 30 days, that all of those different books that are compiled, that there be a table of contents made in an electronic version where everything's in one electronic file.
Sure.
And that be distributed to the board. Does that sound like something we could ask them? I'm not asking you to recreate the wheel.
right.
We just would like you to
Yep.
make a table of contents, scan everything, put it in one PDF,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and that's our,
Okay,
that's our operations manual, if you will.
Yeah. And I could, if you need help with advice, do you use the Adobe program with
No.
PDFs?
no, I didn't.
We do, at home.
It's really easy. You can actually create hyperlinks within, like, if you create a table of contents, you can link pages together, so you can
Okay.
click on it, and it goes right to that page. So again, it's a really easy way where you don't have to spend a lot of time trying to sort and filter
Sure.
and tab things.
Okay,
So I guess my
It's a
question,
bookmark.
Yeah.
Is that, yep.
Yeah.
yeah,
there's another place too for link
Oh, okay.
pages.
Because we've got the scanner at the Karen House, right?
yeah, yep,
It's not like you have to put one page at a time, you can do a bunch at the same time.
yeah,
Okay,
fast.
so this shouldn't be too much work.
No,
Okay.
fine,
60 days.
All right. So I'd like to make the board directive that that Carrie compile, we'll call it the office manual,
okay,
with a table of contents delivered to the board within 30 days electronically.
Stephen, do you have a question?
Just a comment. I think a 30-day window's kind of short. I'd like to ask for either 60 or at least to the end of the year.
Can I ask you a follow-up question? So Carrie, you said all of the stuff is done, right? All these books exist. You just need to scan the stuff.
right.
How many hours of labor do you think it's going to take?
It shouldn't take that long,
4 hours?
sure. I think I can get it done. If I'm having trouble with trying to finish stuff, I'll ask for an extension, how about that?
I think that sounds fair. Appreciate that.
Okay.
I move we adjourn.
All right, motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. We're adjourned.